Hello and welcome to this video on checking answers, which includes estimation and approximation. This is another video in the Functional Skills Maths Level 1 and Level 2 series. The learning outcome for this video is to use strategies to check answers, including estimation and approximation. The linked learning goes back to when we did calculations and this diagram that showed the relationship between addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. And we're going to concentrate on these inverse relationships, which between addition and subtraction they're the opposites and multiplication and division are the opposites. Now in the previous video about multiplication and division facts, we actually used this relationship between multiplication and division to start this process of reverse check calculations. So in the video that we did before, we would have had 8 times 5 equals 40 as our original calculation, and then we reversed it by putting the answer as the first number, so 40. Then we reversed the function, so the multiply became a divide, and then the 5 stayed where it was, equals 8, where this number became the answer. And this works exactly the same way for addition and subtraction. So if we had 5 plus 8 equals 13 as our original calculation, then our check could be 13 minus 8 equals 5. So our answer became our first number, and we reversed the function here from addition to subtraction. So have a go at using the reverse calculation method for those calculations on display. Work out what the correct answer is first of all, and then do the reverse calculation. Don't forget to pause the video if you need more time. So for the first one, 7 plus 6 is 13, and that's our original calculation. So in order to reverse it, it becomes 13, take away 6 equals 7. This is our check of our calculation. Let's do the same for the next one. 9 minus 4 is 5. That's our original. And then to reverse the calculation, our answer becomes our first number. We reverse the function, we leave the 4 where it is, and our first number becomes our answer. And this is our check. Did you get these correct? If not, give them another go or make up some calculations and try the check yourselves. So for our multiplication, 4 times 3 is 12 as our original. So our check becomes 12 divided by 3 equals 4. And finally, 42 divided by 7 is 6. So 6 times 7 equals 42. So 6 was our original, and this is our check. And this is one of the main methods to use for checking a calculation, this reverse calculation method. Next, we're going to look at rounding as a form of checking calculations. Now, the key to rounding is when you make your decision to do the rounding, if the next number along is the number 5, then you need to round up. So think of the number 5 with balloons going up, or some people think of the expression high five. And what we're going to do first is round to the nearest 10, 100 or 1000, because we've only covered whole numbers so far. There are other types of rounding that we'll come on to once we've done decimals. So here's an example for you. We want to round the number 31,585 to the nearest 10, to the nearest 100, and to the nearest 1,000. So let's start with the nearest 10. So to round to the nearest 10, it's telling us which of the place values it wants you to round to. So to the nearest 10 is our tens. So we're interested in the 8, but we need to check the next number along to stick with the 8 or round it up to a 9. Now in this case, because the next number along is a 5, remembering our high 5, we need to change the 8 to a 9. So our number becomes 31,590. Now let's look at rounding to the nearest 100. So when it asks to round to the nearest 100, you're interested in the hundreds. So this 5 here is the hundreds. Then you need to ask yourself, are you rounding up or are you going to stick with the 5? And in order to make that decision, you need to look at the next number along. And in this case, because it's an 8 and 8 is above the 5, you need to increase the 5 to a 6, our 500 to a 6. So it becomes 31,600. Don't forget to infill these numbers with zeros once you've made the decision on whether to stick or twist and go up to the next number. So now let's round to the nearest 1,000. So it's the thousands that we're interested in, so the 1 represents the thousands. And in order to decide whether to stick with 1 or twist and go up to a 2, we need to look at the next number along. That next number along is a 5, therefore you twist, you go up to 32. So it becomes 32, and don't forget to infill the other place values with zeros. So it becomes 32,000. Have a go at rounding these numbers to the nearest 10 and to the nearest 100. Don't forget to pause the video to give yourself a bit more time. So here are the answers. Did you get the correct answers? If not, there's more practice on Moodle and some worksheets as well. So here's a question in a functional skills format. And they want us to write the figure 1,625 to the nearest 1,000, 100 and 10. So let's start with the thousands. So we're interested in the thousands, so that's the 1 as far as our number's concerned, and we make our decision based on the next number along. Now because it's 6, we twist, we go up to the next value, so it becomes 2, and then we infill the other place values with zeros. So the figure to the nearest 1,000 is 2,000. Now rounding to the nearest 100, we're interested in the 6. Look at the next number along, which tells us to stick with the 6. So we have 1, 6, and we infill the other place values with zeros. And finally, we need to round to the nearest 10. So we're interested in the tens. We look at the next number along to stick or twist, and in this case a 5 is telling us to twist to go up to the next value. So we have 1, 6, 3, and we infill with a 0. Now notice when we're doing the rounding to 1,000, 100 and 10 that the figure we're rounding to, 1,000, gives us the 3 zeros. The number we're rounding to is 100, it gives us the 2 zeros, and finally rounding to a 10 gives us 1 0 with our rounded number. Now let's look at estimation. So if you have a complicated question like 376 times 47 and you want to check your question, what you can do is make the numbers as easy as possible so you can do a quick check mathematically. So really roughly 376 is close to 400. And 47 is very close to 50. So the quick calculation I can do is 4 times 5, which is 20, and then put the zeros on to make the number complete. So 400 times 50 is 20,000. So when you check your calculation of 376 times 47, it should be in the region of the value 20,000. And this is a rough method for checking calculations. Again, it's a valid method to check a calculation. So here's an example of a functional skills type question. A bag of sweets weighs 28 grams. Paul needs 22 bags of sweets for a party. Use rounding to estimate the weight of crisps needed for the party. So I don't have to do the exact maths because of this word here. It's telling me to use an estimate. Well, 28 is close to 30 and 22 is close to 20. So if I multiply the two together, 3 times 2 is 6, put the zeros in to complete the calculation, you end up with an estimation of 600 grams. And that's all they're asking for your answer. Here's a more involved estimate question in functional skills, and they're asking us to estimate the total cost of the shopping list below, rounding each item to the nearest £10. So for the paint, we have 2 lots of £20, so that's £40. For the rolls of wallpaper, we have 4 lots of £20, which is £80. For the carpet, we have 10 square meters at £10 per square meter. So that's £100. And then finally, 2 doors at £10 a door, which is £20. Add all our items together and you have an answer or an estimate of £240. Did you get the same answer? Here's an example of a functional skills question that then asks you to do your check using the estimation process. So Sanjit bought 8 planks of wood for his decking at £56. How much was each plank? So we have £56 divided by the 8 planks, and if you know your times table, 56 divided by 8 is 7. So he paid £7 per plank. Now it's asking to do our estimation check of a calculation. So we had 56, which we can round to 60, and 8 planks we can round to 10. So 60 divided by 10 is 6. So our estimation is £6 per plank. So it's in the right ballpark for the £7, which was the exact calculation. And that's the whole point of estimation and checking calculations, that you're in the correct ballpark with your answer. Now let's look at approximation, and this is where we round the answer. So if there were 6 cans of Coke in a pack and I buy 7 packs, approximately how many cans will I have? So when you do the exact maths of 6 times 7, you end up with 42 as an answer. But they want us to give an approximation. So approximately you'll end up with 40 cans. So approximation is where you round your answer to a nice sensible number. Let's look at a calculation where we use approximation for our answer. So if we have an exchange rate of £1 to 135 Japanese yen, show that £15 is approximately 2,000 yen. So here I've got £15 and I need to multiply it by the 135 Japanese yen per pound. Now this is quite a big calculation, so let's use the grid method to do this calculation. So I have 10 and 5, and I've got to multiply it by 135. So 10 times 100, 1 times 1 is 1, with 3 zeros to infill. 1 times 3 is 3, with 2 zeros. And then finally, 1 times 5 is 5, with just the 1 zero to infill. 5 times 1 is 5, with 2 zeros. 5 times 3 is 15, with the 1 zero. And then 5 times 5 is 25. Add the numbers together. So this is 1500, this is 450, and this is 75. Add the three numbers together. 1500, 450, and 75. 5 in this column, 12 in this column, 10 in this column, and 2 in this column. So the exact answer would be 2025. So it is approximately 2,000 Japanese yen. So the buzzwords to come from this video are reverse check, rounding, estimation, and approximation. Do you remember what they all are? So the reverse check was where you have a calculation such as 4 plus 6 equals 10 as your original calculation. Your reverse check is to put your answer first, reverse the function, and then put your first number as your answer, and this is your reverse check method. Rounding is where we round a number to the nearest 10, 100, and 1,000, depending on what we've been given. So if we have a number such as 34,264, and I want to round it to the nearest 100, the 2 is the hundreds, and the next number along tells me to round it up to a 3. So it becomes 343, and then infill the other place values with zeros. So because we're rounding to 100, we expect to see 2 zeros at the end of our number. Estimation is where we round the number before we do the calculation to make the maths easy. So if I said 89 multiplied by 27, then to estimate the answer, 89 is close to 90, 27 is close to 30, and then just do the basic maths. 9 times 3 is 27, and we have 2 zeros to put in the answer. So 89 times 27, my estimate is around 2,700. Approximation is where we round the answer. So if I had 12 times 7 as my calculation, which is 84, if I wanted to make my answer approximate, I would say it's approximately 80. And that completes the learning outcome for this lesson, where we've used strategies to check answers, including estimation and approximation. If you'd like more practice on these topics, then please go to the Moodle area where you'll find additional worksheets and quizzes.